Hey guys, what is happening? Metal Viking here, and welcome back to Discography Rewind, the series where I review a band's entire discography minus EPs and side projects and B-side albums, etc. Where this is a series where I review a band's discography, all their studio albums, and basically take a trip throughout their past to see how they've grown as a band and how we got to the point where they are now. And if you haven't seen the first bunch of episodes that I did on Paradoxica, the Dutch symphonic black metal band, then be sure to check out those episodes. I will leave the playlist linked in the description box below if you haven't seen them already. Anyways, with all that out of the way, let us move on to the debut album by Carnifex, titled Dead in My Arms. Okay, so Dead in My Arms, as I mentioned, is the debut album by Blackened, the Deathcore band Carnifex. While it got the attention of the deathcore community, the album still managed to garner the band the reputation of being suicide silence ripoffs due to similar production, sound, and songwriting. Also, Scott's vocals were pretty close to Mitch Lucker's at that time, although upon further listens I would say there are some slight differences, and obviously Scott's got his own brand of sound, but the similarities are there in certain aspects, especially in his highs, I'd say. The lows as well, but mostly in the highs. So what else have we got here? Oh yes, the album is straight up pure unfiltered deathcore. This means a lot of death metal riffs, a shit ton of breakdowns, no guitar solos, and lyrics that involve either beating the crap out of people or inflicting self-harm, and hilarious lines like "what the fuck" and "fine, fuck you then," serving as bridges before the next breakdown. It's pretty comedic in retrospect, but I guess when you're just in the zone in the mosh pit, it sounds cool. So I guess maybe that's the effect it serves. Then when it comes to the riffs, they are actually really good. In actual fact, if one were to listen to them carefully, one can already pick up the potential that they had at the time, and that would lead them to the genius songwriting that they would be known for on recent releases, especially their past two albums, which is Die Without Hope and Slow Death. The album is really heavy, and it's definitely one of their heaviest works, next to the aforementioned Die Without Hope, Slow Death, and even going as far back as Hell Chose Me. The songs, they definitely pack a lot of punch and power. The drumming is actually really good and has a lot of range when it comes to the tempos. Scott's vocals had a lot of potential, but when this album was released back then, nobody would have thought so. Today, Scott's vocals are praised, since he is able to pull off anything from black metal styled shrieks to death metal growls to guttural deathcore vocals. But on this album, he pretty much only does deathcore vocals, and none of the lyrics can be heard. Also, his highs and lows on this album are, as I mentioned earlier, eerily similar to Mitch Lucker's in a lot of ways. Not 100% exactly, but the aspects are definitely there. Also, don't let the titles of some of the songs fool you. I know that song titles can be very off-putting for some metalheads, so while one or two titles sound like they belong on a black metal album, the lyrics were typical early deathcore stuff. A lot of it quite laughable in retrospect, but they don't harm the quality of the songs overall. Also, while some tracks stand out, most of them sound the same, which is one of the downsides to the album. But thankfully, the album isn't that long. It's actually very short. So if one finds themselves getting bored, don't worry, the album doesn't overstay its welcome, which is an argument many people who aren't really into deathcore will bring up. Prime example being Cover Killer Nation. He likes to make this point a lot, that deathcore albums shouldn't be longer than what they need to be. And in the case of this album, which is pure deathcore in its purest, most original, basic form, I would agree with that statement completely. So overall, this album, it has its weak points. It is a fairly strong debut, and it definitely showcased that the band had a lot of potential to become something different and unique in comparison to their peers as the years went on. But the riffs, as brief as they are, definitely showed a lot of their listed influences. You can hear them in there, so you can hear a bit of Cannibal Corpse, Behemoth, Cradle of Filth, but mostly it leans more to the death metal spectrum than the black metal spectrum. Scott's vocals may not have been what they are now back then, but they do fit the songs as they are written on this album perfectly. The album, as I said, it delivers on the heaviness and the brutality, and is perfect for moshing and headbanging. While some elements are silly, like the lyrics and the fuck you bridges, they, as I said earlier, they do not affect the quality of the album overly much. And the album is just pure fun. If you're a fan of early Suicide Silence, Job for a Cowboy, and Whitechapel, then this is the album for you. And with all that being said, I would have to give this album a rating of 6.5 out of 10. So despite this rating, I would recommend this album to newcomers of deathcore, for the main reason being that Carnifex, unlike most deathcore bands, have definitely had one of the most interesting evolutions when it comes to their sound. And by the time you finish going through their entire discography, you'll probably find that you'll enjoy them a lot more than you expected, and you'll be able to find a lot of elements from more traditional styles of metal, or more, should I say, more traditional styles of extreme metal in their, especially their newer material that could, if you're a newcomer to deathcore, give you a more profound respect for the genre, and see that there actually are bands and artists within this genre that are actually willing to experiment, adapt, and change a little bit to make it something more than what it is in its basic form. So yeah, but anyway, guys, what did you think of this album? I'd like to know your thoughts. Do you think is this a favorite album of yours? Did you enjoy it at the time of its release? Is it something you'd maybe recommend to newcomers to deathcore like I would? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, then be sure to give the video a thumbs up, possibly share with a friend, subscribe to the channel if you're new here. If you want to suggest a discography of a band for me to review, then head on over to my Patreon, where you can pledge a certain amount, and you'll have access to a poll where you can vote on artists, or send me suggestions for me to make a poll for artists, and then I'll get on to it as soon as I can. And yeah, guys, if you want to follow me on social media, the relative links will be in the description box below as well. So yeah, thank you so much, guys, for listening, and until the next episode of Discography Rewind, take care of yourselves, and as always, have a kick-ass day. Bye.